world feels a bit toxic and blah these days, doesn't it? The same old people coming up with the same old solutions for big problems that still don't work. We need to change the game. Well, welcome to Women Advancing. Join me, host Kate Byrne, in this dynamic bi-weekly podcast, bringing together female founders, funders, and thought leaders. Listen to the people driving change, how they got there, how you can help, and yep, how you might just be the next one to advance. Proof that all ships rise with women at the helm. That's what happens when Women Advance with Kate Byrne. Hey everyone, it's your host Kate Byrne with Women Advancing. So many of us have been touched by cancer, either through surviving it ourselves or having loved ones who have battled and or passed from it. It's so frustrating when you watch someone who you want to get the most fastest, ultimate care, and because of inaccessibility and the slow pace of said care, nothing ends up being able to be done. Well, enter today's guests. What happens when two visionary scientists decide that the future of medicine shouldn't just be about faster data, but actually smarter, more human-centered care, and frankly, more accessible and accurate? Well, you get Avant Genomics, which is co-founded by the CEO, Rachelle Turiello, and co-founder Renna Nouwairi. These two, honestly, are amazing, and they're on a mission to transform how we understand genomics, moving beyond the lab bench and into real-world impact into healthcare, equity, and actual innovation. We talk about a number of different things. We talk a bit about genomics, so you'll kind of get a better understanding of, what's going on and what is now one of today's most exciting and disruptive frontiers. But the lessons and the courage it requires to launch a startup in a field that's actually seriously moving at a speed that's beyond discovery. So these two ladies are so out over their skis, but they're doing it with great relish. And that, I think, is amazing. We're going to delve into their partnership, really, and what the secret sauce is. Self-respect, self-awareness, honestly. And as a result, it fuels their resilience, their creativity, and their trust. And how in this day and age, we really need to balance hard science and human empathy, because data and data alone doesn't do much to really, really help the people that it's meant to serve. And we'll share a little bit about what they wish they'd known at the beginning of their journey. So, and the advice that they give as well. So sure, we're going to talk a little bit about science. We're going to talk a lot about being a founder, of course, courage in the future. But we're going to talk primarily and do a real look at how two women are pushing the boundaries of genomics while staying anchored in purpose. Let's dive in and stay to the end for my KV takeaways. Women Advancing listeners, welcome. Well, really excited to connect today because I get to connect you with two amazing co-founders of a biotech company that's going to change the world as we know it. We get to sit down with Rachelle Turiello, who's the CEO and co-founder of Avant Genomics, and Renna Nouwairi, who's the COO and co-founder of, that would be Avant Genomics. Thank you very much. Ladies, welcome to Women Advancing.
Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Thanks so much for having us.
We're very excited.
Your story is so terrific. I kind of want you just to dive in because everyone, what these two are doing, the work itself is really important, but even just the fact that we've got two women who are leading and successfully doing so in such a competitive and male-heavy field. So much to share. So what inspired you all to really kind of create Avant Genomics? And what gap in the field did you see and you said, hey, we're the ones to fill it?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of organic and a long and winding road. So interestingly, I spent over a decade working in forensics before jumping into cancer diagnostics. And I was working on crime scenes and identifying victims and suspects from DNA from multiple police departments in Maryland. And what's really interesting about forensics too, just a little side note, is it's a very female dominated field. Yeah, most of the people that I've worked with in my career in forensics in the past life were women. Very cool. Wow. I guess we can handle the nitty gritty gruesome stuff.
And I bet we can also find the nuance and have the patience to and get people to spill the tea as we say.
Spill the tea. Yeah, absolutely. So while I was doing that, I was also teaching at a master's program, teaching forensic science. And I was going to a lot of conferences. So I was staying really current with new and cutting edge technology and constantly struck by how difficult it was to implement new technology that we were seeing just in academia and at conferences into the lab. And I was frustrated enough, and this should tell you a lot about my personality, frustrated enough that I decided to take a hiatus entirely. I left my job. I sold my home in Baltimore, and I started my PhD in a lab where the team was really well known for not only developing new tech for labs that could be more easily implemented into labs, but also known for plugging in with government and industry to get it into the hands of the people who were doing this work, so boots on the ground. Now, the hitch in this giddy up, though, was that this lab happened to be in a chemistry department, and I did not at the time consider myself a chemist. My training was genetics and anthropology, and I needed a buddy. There needed to be a buddy system for me to make it through this program, and maybe I could impart some knowledge on them, and they could impart some on me. So luckily, I picked an empty desk right behind Renna.
Yeah, and Rach comes in. She sits behind me, looking fabulous as always, and has all this experience in the field. And I had just come from undergrad in chemistry. I taught at a private high school for a little while, chemistry, physics, and robotics. So very like core sciences. And my background was more like the chemistry, physics, and math of everything. And we very quickly found that we had complementary strengths, where Rachel was the applied chemistry side of the genetics, the biology, the forensics. I was a little bit more focused on the physics that explains why the chemistry happens. So we ended up teaching each other as we went through qualifying exams and just filling in each other's gaps in knowledge.
Like, did we just become best friends?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So that first year, I wrote an application to the DOJ, National Institute of Justice. I said, I want to solve this problem. I want to develop a solution for what I viewed in the field and in the lab as the most difficult part of any of these genetic workflows, which is sample preparation. It's dozens and dozens of steps. It's manually done. So reproducibility is poor, your ability to get the same result from sample to sample. And in that process, you can lose 95% of the DNA. And in forensics, you get these little amounts of DNA sometimes. Sometimes it's the interaction of just touching someone and we're getting DNA from that interaction.
Wow.
And so if you lose much of that DNA, you're not going to get a good result on the back end.
Right.
So I wrote this application, it's like some very low statistical result that you'll actually get funded, and was absolutely shocked that we were funded. So we start working on this project, and a few years pass. It's going really, really well. And we're presenting this work at a conference in Croatia. We're up for an award. And this conference is staggeringly cool. It's like nothing we've seen in the US. It's split between personalized medicine and forensics. So basically anything cool you can do with DNA.
And it's all the thought leaders from Mayo Clinic and all the heads of government agencies in Europe that are equivalent to like our FBI and Department of Defense and Justice.
Mm-hmm.
The Minister of Health was there for Croatia, and he was the one presenting the awards. And it was just we
got the award, by the way.
That was a fantastic conference that was focused on how genetics and all these different applied biological fields can come together to help for personalized medicine and forensic science.
So Renna and I are absolutely in awe of all these people. We actually, sitting in the audience, we took some chairs and faced them toward ourselves. We got a big pot of tea and we put our feet up, and it was pretty funny. And we just listened to these people talk about this insane work that they were doing. And we started to see a theme, which was each of them was working really hard on the back end of their process to solve for this low-level DNA or contaminated DNA that they had, with really clever detection methods and with back-end algorithms. And they were still kind of having a hard time getting good results.
Right.
And we were like, we're seeing a theme here, which is all of them are using the same kind of antiquated separation or DNA preparation process that we're trying to solve for in forensics. And this could be hugely impactful in personalized medicine. So that night, we went to dinner with our husbands. We're kind of recapping on the week and all of the talks that we've seen. Our husbands passenger princessed with us during this conference to have an excuse to go to Croatia.
Right.
And we just decided we were going to start a company. Everybody got on the same page. And to consummate our union, we jumped into the Adriatic Sea together. That was very much our aha moment. This could really be impactful. And we just brought that energy
back. And it's a company. I mean, it could really be a company. There's such a there. It's kind of a combination of things, because it almost sounds, I don't want to say it wasn't a pivot. It was just a fine tuning and kind of a shift, like, oh, looking at it through that lens, which is right, the bigger entry point.
Yeah, absolutely. And problem focused. We were sitting there listening to people who were like, we're having this problem. Here's how we're trying to solve it. And we were like, well, it feels like you're missing this whole component that's really just being taken for granted that we've spent so long working on. And we just kind of realized, oh, we could help them solve this problem.
I love that. That's what we've been doing. I bet it was also a bit of a, yes, it was an aha, but I'm sure it was also a phew. We've been doing all this work. It's not all for naught.
Yeah. As we came off stage, people were coming up and asking, hey, can we get this technology? Can we buy it? Can we set up a collaboration? Because they wanted it in their labs, whether it was an academic lab or different countries' forensic labs wanted to try it out on their labs. And it was really a like, okay, this is something that could go somewhere. We should look into this.
And the beauty of that too is then you've got, your audience, the community, they're building, you're going to probably get real-time feedback going, oh man, you were close on this, but what would be really great is this. And which also helps you, we were talking a little bit earlier about Gantt charts and timelines and milestones. That then helps you figure out, like everything, okay, which features should be coming first. Because so often I think if we're not exactly in a field, we have an idea, oh, we should do this. But then when you hear from the audience, like, oh my God, we so don't care about that. Or, yeah, that's a nice to have. It's not a must have. So,
exactly.
Right?
Those customer conversations are always continually happening. Yeah.
And I bet, is it hard to listen to them sometimes when you're thinking, yeah, I know, but we really want to do this one. We really want to do this feature.
It's been a bit of a mind shift. So coming from academia, where we do science because it's exciting and we want to see how far we can push the boundaries. That's not always what people in industry want. They want something that's reliable and consistent and that they can use easily. So having to shift from this is cool technology and we can make it go faster and be better, and having to step back and say, okay, maybe we just need it to be solid, reliable, good enough to work. And that's what the customer wants.
So with all that, which is really awesome, what to you kind of is the most exciting about like the real world application of what you're doing, and from either the patient, practitioner, or just the entire care system realms?
Yeah. So as we kind of illustrated at the conference and understood all the way back then, these companies are working really hard to do exactly what we saw. So build clever algorithms and detect cancer from large volumes of blood. And they forget that their ability to detect with really high confidence is hinging on how well their preparation performs.
It's all about the quality of the DNA going into the reaction.
So
garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. Exactly. So if we can fix a problem like this, where a system uses every little bit of sample, the likelihood of success increases dramatically. And so when we zoom way out and think about this field, liquid biopsy, detecting cancer from blood, we think about a couple of different use cases. We're thinking about early detection, right? We're thinking about therapy selection. So using your own genome from that tumor to determine which therapy will work best for you. And we're thinking about therapeutic monitoring and minimal residual disease testing. And by that, I mean post-tumor resection, monitoring that patient throughout their entire oncology journey to ensure that nothing new has emerged or that this one is subsiding. So all of these are stemming from the same basic principles of garbage in, garbage out, just as you were saying.
Yeah.
If we zoom way out again and we do a really good job of putting higher quality material in to get better results out, what this leads to is more FDA approvals because tests become more reliable, more reimbursement structures being put into place for these tests, and ultimately more doctors offering these tests to patients, and more patients being able to take advantage of the benefit of having tests like these to monitor them throughout their journey, as opposed to waiting every few months for a scan. They can be getting constant blood tests and having personalized, individualized care delivered to them in a structure that supports that. And right now, that's just starting to emerge, but it's slow going. I mean, if you look at the criticisms of liquid biopsy, it's that there's so much potential and so much promise. And for patients, it hasn't been able to come to fruition in a lot of different ways. And it's just starting to, and that's really exciting. We're seeing this a lot on the therapeutic side now. But the implications of something like early detection, just colorectal cancer, just as one example, 50 million people a year in the screening age range don't get screened, either because they don't have access to colonoscopy, they can't get into a GI clinic. It's the standard of care, and colonoscopy is fantastic. But what are those other 50 million people going to do?
Right.
You have to get it. So if they can even have an interim test that has high enough sensitivity to give them some level of confidence that they can wait those 9 months for a colonoscopy, that's worth it in our minds.
How translational this technology is, and how it's impactful, not just for the people in the lab who are running the tests, but the patients, our family members, everyone we know that's affected by cancer.
Is there, you just mentioned family members. So do family members of yours, have they had interactions with cancer or had to have, deal with it?
Yeah. So right now, my stepfather has stage 4 disease. It started as esophageal and has become stage 4 liver. And that happened very quickly. It started one day with, I can't swallow. And it took, I believe, 8 weeks for him to get in and get scoped, right? So, and during that whole time, he's having difficulty getting food down. He's losing weight. And the worst thing you can do is lose weight and lose strength when you're going through something like that. Chemo, radiation, and then these 3-month scan intervals. In between those scans, he developed stage 4 metastatic disease in another organ. And it wasn't caught during the early scans. We do show that people with advanced cancers who are using liquid biopsy to monitor during treatment can live twice as long, because you're catching these things earlier than you would otherwise. But at no point, and he's at some well-regarded hospitals right now, at no point was he offered that intervention. And it's a shame, right? That should be on the list of things that you can try that are at your disposal before you're dealing with stage 4 disease. And maybe it could be impactful for some patients. This studies show that it is.
And the unfortunate reality is 1 in 2 people are going to be affected by cancer now. So we all know somebody who has had cancer or will develop it in the future. And that's unfortunate, and something needs to change in the standard of care.
Yeah. 35 million people are in active treatment every year.
And to your point, I don't know that the general public or a lot of people understand that what starts as one form, as is in the case with your stepfather, it metastatic, it shifts and changes. And sometimes what it started isn't the type or the place where it actually eventually, really gets you. I know this from my mom, my dad, a longtime friend with pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I think is so beautiful about this too is it's, double A, it's the accuracy and it's the accessibility. So it gives you, because when you're in that situation, especially, and I know a lot of listeners have been on the caretaker side, your hands are tied. You can do so little. And to your point, you're watching this person melt in front of you. And just everything that goes on inside, mentally, spiritually, all of that is just so hindered to anything.
And it's not the doctor's fault.
No, and that's the thing. It's nobody's fault.
Right? Yeah, no. They're overburdened, they're understaffed, and there's too many people that need treatment on a regular basis to really keep up. I mean, going back to the colorectal cancer example, if all 50 million people who don't get screened for colorectal cancer suddenly decided to get screened, the wait list would be 10 years long because there's not enough physicians to do all of that work.
Correct. Exactly.
Having a blood test instead of having to take up time in a clinic or surgery would be so much more efficient and practical.
Yeah.
No.
And it's about diversifying the options.
Yes.
The argument
Giving
is sometimes, the argument is sometimes, well, for colorectal in particular, we'll just stay with that example throughout. Getting a scope is the standard of care, and it's going to be the best option because we can visualize polyps. Of course it is. Not everyone's going to have access to that.
Correct.
Yes.
Exactly.
So if we're talking about early detection, that's the argument. If we're talking about monitoring, this is just the intelligent approach. We have the ability to personalize medicine at this point to select therapies for people that will work well for them and give them longer to live. Why not include that as the standard of care? And yes, there are some barriers, right? We need to get the performance up, but that's part of what we're working so hard to do.
And the goal is not to replace the standard of care. It's to just be another tool in the toolkit so it's more accessible and people have options.
Dare I say, enhance and empower the standard of care, right? It's like the evolution, which we all know needs to happen for the company side. What's been like the hardest challenge so far? Is it funding? Is it science scaling? Or is there something else? And how do you navigate it?
It's that this market is new and emerging. It's still shaping itself, and it requires us to be vigilant about staying on top of what is coming out in literature. What are the new methods undergoing FDA approval? What are new developments in the field? And the constant learning is a challenge, one that we're well suited for. And we love that aspect of the job, but we do have to carve out a lot of space for that to just stay on top of everything. And it also leads to a challenge in funding because we're building a very technical product with a very huge market potential, but figuring out who the right partners are to tell our story and who's going to understand our story is difficult.
Well, and who's going to be committed to performance, right? It doesn't have to be perfect before we roll it out, but we are, in our heart of hearts, analytical chemists, and we want to make sure that whoever we partner with is aligned with our vision for really delivering this to be an impactful technology and not just another one that's on the market competing with the current standard.
And what I was just going to say, that translates into having patient capital and not having this just be opportunistic, but to have the ability of giving it the time and the space, right? And the cycle to develop, and both really understanding that a surprise, not a failure, but a learning, right, is not just that. It's not a failure. It's actually helping you get closer, rather than, oh my gosh, we're going to expect it to hit this number or hit this. And if it doesn't, it means you're on the wrong track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the constant cycle of something didn't work out, and then we have to pivot, but then excited about the pivot and learning and achieving. And then, it's just a constant,
I think that's why we're good scientists.
I think so too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's constant learning from mistakes, and failures.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think this is part of the issue that I have. And don't get me wrong, those of you who are, on the finance and the money and the investing side of things, to me, that's part of the kind of the friction that continues to happen, right? With either be it technology, but particularly in biotech, anything science oriented. There's so many things unknowns that we don't know, but the money side of the house needs it to be some kind of I want a guaranteed return. I know there's no guarantee, but they really kind of expect a guarantee. And I think that's the group that often ends up getting the short side of that is the founder, the company. When you come up and say, okay, we're thinking it's going to this, it's our hypothesis. We're thinking it should look like this. And then when it doesn't, it's like, oh yeah, okay, well, it didn't, and you're losers. So I think the whole system is changing and shifting. And I think it's about to really happen because there's going to be things like quantum physics, quantum anything, quantum computing, it's going to demand that and shake that all to its knees.
Yeah, I think what that translates into for us and in terms of funding and then commercialization, so
Yes.
capitalizing and commercializing, is breaking things up into very clean milestones because our tendency in a past life, our tendency would be to work on everything and make every aspect perfect and how it all integrates together. And of course, on a grand scale, that's what we're working to do over time. In business, that's not really possible. There need to be these bite-sized deliverables that people can kind of chew on that will continue to infuse value back into the company and also keep our customers engaged with the product and with us.
Right.
And so it does work out. It's just, it was a learning curve in the beginning, and it's still a learning curve, for being totally honest.
Continue as the contextual surroundings shift every second. But seriously, so speaking of shifting, let's shift a little bit into now you, this fabulous co-founder team.
Yeah.
So honestly, and we all know this, it's kind of like a marriage, really, right?
Oh yeah.
So
we talked about getting rings.
How do you divide like roles and resolve disagreements and keep this partnership so strong? There's such a mutual respect that just is palpable and a genuine enjoyment of each other. So that's so fun because oftentimes it can be where someone gets little green eyes, as my dad would say, a little jealous of the other, la, 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 la. How do you make the magic happen, friends?
I mean, you hit on it. It's respect and trust. So the basis of our partnership is just that, just like in a marriage. We give each other feedback regularly, and it's both positive and constructive. And we always know that our feedback comes from a place of respect. So egos are never an issue. And we both want what's best for the company.
And for each other.
We're taking care of our company and taking care of each other. And so dividing roles really just comes from having those honest conversations about not just our strengths, but what brings us joy and what do we want to do in this company. I mean, Rachel's the visionary, and she can make these amazing plans and see, okay, in 5 years, we're going to be here. And I have much more of the, okay, I'm going to figure out how to get us there in those small actionable chunks that we can actually accomplish.
Yeah, as I mentioned early on the call, Renna sees things as Gantt charts. So whenever we have to do one of these cyclical kind of, let's go back to the drawing board and figure out if what we're developing right now is really speaking to the customer. And I'm big picture. Renna needs a whiteboard and a marker and immediately she'll start like drawing on her hand if she doesn't have one ready. And there's just all these line diagrams. And she's like, well, if we did this here, then we could do. And my brain just can't operate that way. And it's fantastic that she has the ability to do that. And so I think, there's a lot of respect in understanding how the other person's mind works, what is important to them, both personally and professionally, and the role that each one of us plays in our day-to-day and in this great play we call life.
Yes. Well, and I'm going to say it also requires and it demonstrates that each of you also has, I believe, a deep knowledge of yourselves, self-awareness,
working on it all the time.
Yep.
Oh yeah, no. And that won't change. When you can be a wizened crone like me, it continues. But no, seriously, that is so important. There comes a time, and I think you said it, there's something so much bigger than you. It's this and what you can really leave, like the legacy and the shifts and the dramatic changes that it can bring about for so many gazillions of people, that understanding, okay, I need to let up on this. We're going to go here. I think that is part of your magic as well.
Yeah.
We've been working together for a long time. And with that, we're getting to know each other very well. I mean, we know each other very well. Sometimes we know each other better than the other one knows themselves at times.
All the time.
And there's times where one of us will come in and we'll be having a slightly off day. Maybe our daughter was up all night or something, and we're just really running on fumes. And the other will, Rach has looked at me before and said, okay, Renna, you need a cup of tea and like go sit in the sun for 10 minutes and just recharge for a second.
She has to recharge like a lizard or a cat.
And sometimes I'll look at Rach and say, okay, we just need a mental break for a little bit. We're going to go walk around outside for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's good to know what the other needs and be able to make space for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
If there are days where one of us needs to say, hey, I have to handle something at home, the other one can step up and say, no problem. I got you. We're covered for today.
Well, and we started this company in March of 2023. I was large and pregnant when we started the company, and in quick succession, so was she. And so we went through that massive change together as well. And there were a lot of responsibilities, both at home and at work. And we just gave each other a lot of grace to grow and learn and become new people, because you emerge a new person after you have little people. And also our company was like our little person as well. And so there's this huge responsibility to the unit. And we're still growing and changing with it.
Right. Absolutely. And it shows, and I can't wait to see. So, as women leaders in this realm of biotech, and the fact that you started this baking babies, right? Who were on the way. So you're going to be adding new customers, hopefully not. When
adding new customers.
By that time, hopefully we won't need, but how have you approached like breaking through barriers or biases? I don't often like to dwell on this, but it does happen.
Yeah,
it's very relevant. We were just discussing this yesterday.
We were just discussing it because we recently started seeing an executive coach. Well, this speaks to the question you asked previously. Yeah. Renna and I both have a team of people who we see. We have the same therapist, so she's just filled in all the time, psychiatrist, and now an executive coach who we've been seeing about. And yesterday, the topic for me was about exactly this, because I think both of us have struggled with that, with holding space for other people's poor behavior to make them feel comfortable and put them at ease, because we believed somehow that this would just blow over if we kind of let them get away with it. But really, you're giving people permission to continue to treat you that way. And so we're working all the time on really just not providing space for anyone to, treat us poorly, to make little comments.
Minimize what we're doing or our achievements.
Yeah.
And I would just offer that they probably don't even get it, and that's why they're minimizing it, perhaps. But that's so important. I was just learning about this whole new practice of let them. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes so much easier said than done. But the truth is, and I just went through something like this last night, which was really funny. And I thought, wow, their need to be right is so important. So, you can be right if you need to be, but not at my expense, especially when it's not right. There's a decent way of doing it. But
and finding that balance of when is it not okay?
Exactly.
And when is it not in the interest of our company, our coworkers, our team, or ourselves?
Yeah, let people reveal who they are to you, so you can decide whether or not you want them to be a part of this story and this thing that you're building.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege. Your time is never more important than my time.
Right.
Your opinion is never more important than my opinion. Right. And it's not that mine is always more important. It's just, why is the assumption that when I walk into a room, or when Renna walks into a room, that because we're female or maybe younger than some of the other executives, that their time is more valuable, their opinions are more valuable? It's just not the case.
Yeah. Why are you meeting me from such a place of a lack of curiosity? I mean, are you such a Yoda where you know it all? I think.
Yeah.
So where do you see Avant Genomics in the next 5 years? And what are some of the big milestones you're most focused on right now?
Yeah, so I think interacting with customers on a very large scale.
Nice.
I'm very excited to get the technology rolled out and start solving problems for people, and then continuing to solve problems for people, continuing to stay active on the market, continuing to learn. So we could give you some economic answer of where we see Avant in the next 5 years, but really, we want to see it be impactful for people. We want to see more laboratories doing liquid biopsy testing because we brought the barrier down to make it part of their capability. We want to see more patients using liquid biopsy as a tool, as opposed to some specialty thing that only a few people have access to because they can afford personalized medicine. Really, we see it as a game changer in the next 5 years.
Yeah, would agree. Okay. And now, knowing what you know now, what advice would you share with your younger self?
Give yourself grace to mess up. Does not have to be perfect, and it's not going to be perfect. And as long as you're constantly learning, that's okay.
Yeah. During my PhD, I had a really incredible female professor, and she taught a very difficult class, like notoriously difficult. She would send us home with these problem sets, and they were these really complex problems that were very open-ended. Answers were expected. And I would stay up all night working on these things. I mean, I was in the corner of my tiny little apartment in Charlottesville and Belmont and sit at this desk and just work on these problem sets. And
Toil away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was one problem set in particular that was really tough and exciting because it was so tough. But it was like the final question, and we were up against deadline, and I had written several answers to it. I had several iterations of what I would say, but it wasn't perfect. It wasn't the perfect answer in my mind. And so I deleted the answer and sent it in with no answer to that question and just emailed her and said, and this was during the pandemic, so we were very much virtual at this time. And she responded back and she said, it's very unlike you to leave an answer empty. Can I ask you what happened? Did you have a question? And I said, no, I had several answers to this question, and I just didn't feel that they were good enough. And it felt kind of disrespectful to give you an answer to this question that wasn't perfect. And so I submitted it without an answer. And she wrote back this long, beautiful message that was like, and after I said, she was like, send me your answers anyway. So I sent them to her, and they were fine, probably. And this is when she sent back the long, beautiful message. And she was like, something to the effect of, your male counterparts will not hesitate to send something that isn't perfect. The problem that you will face is believing that things have to be perfect before you are able to submit them and send them. And that will be a huge detriment to you. Many men holding the same accolades that you do will apply to jobs that they are far less qualified for because they believe that they can, where you and many other women will not. And so you need to just have the courage to submit it and trust yourself and know that not everything has to be perfect because you're competing with other people who are just going to send an answer. And that struck me hard. I mean, I don't think I worked at all that day. I just ruminated on that. And it has changed a lot of interactions for me. It doesn't need to be perfect. What those initial thoughts that I had were just as good as someone else's answers.
And I think in this field and the level of transformation, tumult, whatever that you're going to be bringing about, that's going to be imperative because you've got to have that level of confidence of just like, hey, I'm going for it. And as a pioneering person, that's also really a big part, right? Because not a lot of people have done it, or those who've gone before you have swung and missed. And so I think when you have that kind of confidence and that kind of charismatic kind of, it leads to a following of people like, okay, we're going to trust you. And we will be more likely to give you grace because we know that you're going to share with us what's actually happening. You're not going to try and hide something. You're going to be real and authentic. And guess what? Just, especially in this day and age, reinforcing that humanity part is really beautiful and necessary and rare.
Absolutely.
And that is to me one of your biggest standouts. Seriously.
Yeah. Because what was I really afraid of? I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of being regarded as a failure because it wasn't perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect.
Yeah.
And
if we try for perfect, we'll never get a product out of the lab.
that's right.
Isn't that the truth? And then what advice along those lines, for those of you who are coming behind and beside, what advice would you share with this next generation of female founders?
Find
May not be
people to
different
surround
than what you
yourself.
just shared.
Yeah, I mean, it's find people to surround yourself with that will make you the best version of you and help fill in wherever your gaps in knowledge are. That's probably the most helpful, that the biggest impact in what we have done and what will make Avant Genomics become the company we want it to be.
It's you can't do it alone. Find yourself a work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Oh my gosh. Well, you two, thank you so much for all of this. I'm so excited. Everyone, we're literally like have front row seats to what I know in my heart of hearts is really going to be quite a magical ride. I'm not saying it's going to be a smooth one, but the bumps are what kind of give you a little woohoo excitement, right? And you're going to get through it. And I just cannot wait to see all of the lives that are enhanced. And that's from the practitioner side, the patient side, and just seriously from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Extraordinary. And thanks for taking it on and having the courage to do so and in your way.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kate. We really enjoyed chatting with you this morning.
Yeah. And we'll be back. Believe me, we will have a year from now.
That's in our calendars.
I'm putting a stake in the sand. That'll probably feel like a decade to the two of you.
Oh, yeah.
Based on what you've got on your plates. But no, seriously, thank you so much for making the time and sharing all the many pearls.
Thank you so much.
Until next time. So, did I call it or did I call it? I think it's so heartening to see such powerhouse co-founders that are really genuinely, dare I say, not in love, but in deep respect, because it holds such promise for the company that they're building. And this company, Avant Genomics, is so important. So my KB takeaways for Rachel and Renna are, first and foremost, stand up, say something. When someone's being disrespectful, call them on it in a nice way, and I know you will. But it's so important so that they learn and they don't do it to someone else, but also so that you yourself, talk about demonstrating confidence, but also support. You got to believe in yourself and you got to support yourself. And you got to respect yourself enough to do so. Second, it does not have to be perfect. And I think we all know that, but especially in this world, better to get out there, better to have conversations, learn, be curious, and don't not do something because you don't think it's absolutely square on, right on, perfect. Because if you do, especially when you're, frankly, in a science field, there's bound to be nightmares that follow. And then lastly, clearly, listen to your audience. I mean, really listen. It's hard. That takes a lot of, frankly, discipline. And I'm also going to say humility. And those are all attributes that women have in spades. So let's put them to work. And let's keep an eye on what these two amazing women build, because if they are successful, I'm not going to say if, who am I kidding? I'm going to say when they are successful, and they already are, and they're getting us that much closer, think how many lives are going to be impacted. So ask yourself, what's one thing you would do if you didn't have to have it be absolutely perfect? In your heart of hearts, what's one thing you'd like to try? I dare you. All right, until next time, thanks so much for making time to listen with us at Women Advancing.
Thanks for listening. May this episode inspire you to move forward. Be sure to go to iTunes, Spotify, katebyrne.co, that's KATEBYRNE.co, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and listen to even more episodes. Here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, may we raise them. And be sure to meet them on the next Women Advancing. Ta till next time.